Welcome everybody to another great episode of the Alford Sports Talk Show. I'm Alan, and today we have a wonderful guest for you. We have none other than actress, filmmaker, also CEO of Phoenix Eye, and she just completed a movie, Echo 8 Trilogy. We have none other than the wonderful Maria Trần joining us all the way from Sydney, Australia. That's right, we have Maria Trần joining us. In addition to her new movie being newly released, her husband, Takashi Hara, is also a co-star in the movie and also the director. So there's a lot to discuss with the wonderful Maria Trần right here on the Alford Sports Talk Show. Really appreciate Maria joining us all the way from Sydney, Australia, all the way around the world to join us here on our show today. So we're definitely pleased and delighted to have Maria. But before we get the show started with Maria, let's go ahead and thank our wonderful sponsor, Chef G's Florida Barbecue Sauce. So delicious and addicting, you may need a support group. Feel free to visit my friend, Chef G's, if you're here in the U.S., right here at 301 South 22nd Street, Tampa, Florida. And if you're not here in the U.S., it's quite all right. Feel free to visit Chef G's right here at flbbqsauce.com. Again, it's flbbqsauce.com. So without further ado, let's bring on the wonderful actress, Taekwondo black belt herself, Maria Trần from Sydney, Australia. Let's go. All right, everybody, we're joined here on the Alford Sports Talk Show with a special guest. We have film producer, actor, actress, and producer of a great movie, and that's going to be Maria Trần. We have her from Echo 8. Welcome to the Alford Sports Talk Show.
Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know how busy you've been with the new release and with things going on. Bring us up to date of how life is for you day to day now.
Life for me is quite frantic. I'm actually now back in Sydney. I live between Sydney as well as Las Vegas, but now I'm in Sydney working on a project called Mighty Maddie's Mission to the Future with a little girl who has DIPG, which is childhood brain cancer, and she wanted to make a film. She wanted to see more kids being superheroes and being strong, and her and my team crafted a script together and we made a film. So that's been quite great. But then now we've just launched our Echo 8 Trilogy Indiegogo campaign. So it's in day 3 and it's doing pretty well.
Yes, and it's really fascinating that you are an independent now producer of a movie and you have this crowdfunding source of people helping you out. Talk about that journey to get to the filming to where you're at now.
In terms of the first one for Echo 8, that was made a couple of years ago during COVID, and we shot it in 14 days on a budget, I think $8,000 US. For a feature film, it's pretty crazy, pretty low.
Yeah.
It's a nano budget. It's not even micro, it's tiny, right? But to be honest, we didn't think much of it at that time. I thought it was going to be kind of like a home movie. You know how we let's make a movie and have our friends and watch it kind of thing. Not really as big. But then once we made the film and then we were editing and we're actually it's a pretty good film. How ridiculous is that? Because Elizabeth H. Fu, who's also my sister, she wrote the script and she wasn't even sure. She said, I'm not sure if I wrote a good script, but here's a script. I just wrote it up in I think it was a couple of weeks. So instead of making a short film, go and do a feature film, So she kind of egged me on. She kind of go, oh, if you're a tough, indie filmmaker, you should step up. So that's how I came about in terms of making Echo 8. But since then, it's won, over 20 international awards in the micro budgets. Oh, actually, no, there's some multi-million-dollar films it was up against. And I was like, that's multi-million-dollar. This is $8,000. And we're side by side, which is really phenomenal because it just made me feel that when communities come together and with a little bit of backing, we can create something, that resonates with international audiences. So since then, we got a little bit of confidence to go, you know what, let's do something else. What do you think, Elizabeth? She's like, I've got a cinematic universe in my head. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, when I wrote this story, I did have ideas of spin-offs and prequels, sequels, and then more than that. I'm like, okay, well, if you can pen something in, I think it was a month. I'm terrible. I'm like, I've got the whip cracker out, right? 1 month. If you can get something, we'll go forward with it. And then she did. She got me 2 scripts. We had 2 international readings, and that's how we got a lot of the cast on board based on the script. And the script's an expanded universe, and I think it's going to be really fun. even though we're tweaking it as it goes. But you know, when you get something good, you're reading, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I can see it on big screen. That was how I felt when it came to the Echo Weight scripts. It's not a hard read. Like sometimes scripts you read, you're like, oh my God, what's going on? Who's who? I don't know what's going on. But this one, it's quite a fun, seamless read. There's moments where it's heart-rending moments. There's moments for action. So we set up a crowdfunding campaign only because we wanted to make our film like accessible to the rest of the world. So since 3 days, we've probably raised about 17,000, US, 27 Australian, and we've had all people from all walks of life wanting to, participate, support, and watch how we make our micro budget films and have it transparent for other people to participate and see. So I think that's been such a fun experience.
Yes, and there is so many different facets to that movie that's so interesting, is that you star in it, but also your husband stars in it, Takashi Hara. Talk about your husband and his journey with you to make this project possible.
Yeah, like I think me and my husband, we're quite an interesting combo. Like we love working together. It's so weird, right? And we're very good at separating relationship and work. And it's an amazing relationship because we're able to do that. So with Takashi, he has a very strong acting, theater, performance background from Japan. He studied it over there. For me, I've never studied. I've kind of just learnt on the go of like my own projects or YouTube or like getting together with friends and learning from that. I'm very tactile. So when we came together and worked together, like there's a lot of things that we learnt from the process of like Takashi, he liked things very like locked in. I'm very improvisational, so it was quite a great, interesting synergy. And of course, there's always arguments from all different styles of sort of making a project. It's great because when we watch back, we always go, that's character. Like, that's not you. Because outside, Takashi's not like that. He is the sweetest, most geekiest, I would say, person. He loves watching female-led anime, like strange, right? And he's very thoughtful, and whenever he eats food, he's always like, giving homage to the spirits of the food. And he's like, we've got to be kind to people, and we've got to make sure we be compassionate in all the things that we do. Whereas I'm like a bit like, very masculine, like, oh, we got to do this. I get a chance to calm down and sometimes and have moments of reflection. So that's how we come together and we work. But the thing is, when we're on set, like he's great at supporting what I do, even though we do co-direct. But when I'm on set, I can then kind of like come into a location, we haven't really scouted it, and I'll be like, okay, we've got 2 hours in here. What's the first shots? How do we set up? How do I work with my actors? How do I get the shots, most of the shots in maximum 3 takes, if possible? And if it's more than that, it's never the actor's fault. It's my fault as a director that I didn't not only communicate, but create a picture of what this moment means. And a lot of times for me as a director, I feel, because I'm also an actor, I feel like anything to do with, you have to figure out what the character's looking at, how they feel, the connection to what they're gazing or looking at. Is it internal, is it external? And also their breath. I always help actors get into the breath of the character, and also what is it that they're thinking, their mental picture, and whether it's projected out in the ether and now they live in that moment. And as I'm a director, I can kind of see that because I can watch people and feel are they also allowing me to create the mental pictures of what I think the character is. So it's very cerebral. But it's quite a fun process to work with me. And then on action, again, like I work with different people, different bodies, different abilities, and love facilitating and sort of going, okay, let's try this move, let's try that move, what's that shot, this shot. And because I worked over in China on a Roger Corman project, he's the father of B grade films. I think he's made over 300 films in his lifetime, almost 100 now in Hollywood. And I worked in China on his Fist of the Dragon film. I worked in Vietnam on a blockbuster called Tracer. I got a chance to really exercise my skills of being on set, but also like when you're filming, editing in your head, like they're not going to be like, okay, let's do like 100 takes. Okay, let's go for a safety take. Like they don't do that. They actually shoot as you go. And whoever's the filmmaker, the good ones usually are editing the whole film in their head as they go. Like there's no guessing. Like there's no just sitting there go, let's get the amazing performance. But the person who's directing also needs to know where does that fit in with the film. So therefore you become a better filmmaker, I feel. Kind of like a Robert Rodriguez kind of style of things, because he also directs and do a bunch of roles on his films, and that's why he was able to get from El Mariachi to all the way to these big films. So that's sort of my trajectory. So that's the process of KWA.
Oh, and the great thing about it is you yourself, you also have a black belt in Taekwondo. Talk about that.
I mean, I'm a martial artist in the earlier days because I was bullied in school because I'm different. Growing up in school, if everyone else is a particular ethnicity and you look like this, you're bound to get picked on unless you build skills to be able to exude the confidence, exude the fact that you know who you are and that you belong, regardless of what people think of you. So what they think about you is their business, none of yours, but you operate, you move in this world with as much confidence. So for me, martial arts was a way to get into that after getting bullied in school. But then I took it extreme. I went into competitions for a little bit and really just got all that angst out, anger, all this stuff. And then once I got that out, I was like, what else can I do? And I don't think I'm like athletic. I don't think I want to pursue this further, because my sense is I love storytelling, and I naturally got into sort of making short films, local community short films that ended up snowballing onto roles on television and a whole bunch of things. So the martial arts was my foundation because it's being consistent, doing something you don't want to do time and time again, turning up and doing that. And I love martial arts because it lets you build the foundations for the rest of your life, the resilience in any industry. Where sometimes I feel like today's context, a lot of young people are looking for instant gratification. They get a lot of anxiety because they just need to be stimulated. They whenever there's silence and quietness, they feel uncomfortable with that. But naturally, that's who we are. We should have that. We should embrace just the knowingness of our existence and being content with that. But because of all the stimuli in the world, it's a lot of things.
Yeah, so that's fascinating, and your journey is really fascinating. You actually got a chance to work with Jackie Chan, somebody who's very popular here in the States.
Yes, I got to work with Jackie Chan, but in a very unconventional way. So many years ago, I made, I think, another film, like a little kung fu, again, nano budget. And then when we made it, we were screening it, and then we had people come up and go, oh, that doesn't look like the real Australia. That looks like it's from Asia. And I'm like, no, there are parts in Australia that's just full of Asians, I mean, and they go, oh yeah, it's like the ghettos. I'm like, no, it's not. This is just our community. This is our hood. Why is it from the outside it's labeled and stigmatized? Or when we make a film that challenges how we are perceived, it's seen as a fantasy, right? And I got angry. I got pretty angry. I'm like, man, we can't even exist on screen. We made our own movie and people don't want us, right? So I remember talking to a colleague, and like, I was just complaining to her. She's like, why don't you go find Jackie Chan or something? She's like Arab, so she's like, why don't you go find Jackie Chan? I'm like, what do you mean? He's not my uncle or something. She's like, oh, he's probably lived somewhere in Australia, or he's got some sort of connection in Australia. Figure that out. And then I Googled, and I found out that Jackie actually lived in Canberra when he was during his teenage years for 3 years or something. And I was like, wait a minute, he's like Australian citizen at one point, or resident or whatever, right? So then I started following that. I went on a road trip. I went out on a trip to the place that he lived. Then I went on a 21-day trip around Australia, just to meet with as many people who either love Jackie Chan, have messages to Jackie Chan, have worked with Jackie Chan, to kind of give me and film them their reflection on the moment. And then this is 8 years down the track. I didn't even think I was going to meet Jackie. It was called The Quest for Jackie. I'm like, I made it just to see what it feels like, and I left it there. And then one day I got a phone call from a government agency saying, Maria, we have a proposition for you. There's a company that has requested for you to work on their production, and they're making a Jackie Chan movie in Australia. Would you like to take part in that? And I was like, what? It came back. It's like, out of all these years of putting things on the internet, little, clips of me fighting and recreating Jackie Chan's scene in his wig and wearing a wig to kind of replicate him, has been seen by his production people and the people around him. So I ended up working on his production as a stunt attachment. And then during that time, I made a short film called, Police Story, Girl Force. So it was kind of like a little homage to him. And then at the end of the wrap-up party, I got a chance to show him, right? And then he said to me, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Oh, nothing." He's like, "Okay, you and me go to Canberra." And I'm like, "What? Like, what's going on?" And then someone told me, "Jackie just asked you if you want to go on a family road trip with him to his home in Canberra." And I was like, "Is anyone else coming?" "No, it's only you." So therefore, if anything happens, this is the sequence of security for him, okay? So if someone comes close to him, you got to intercept. Like, what? I'm now going to double up as his, protector in case something happens, as well as going on a road trip, 3 hours drive from Sydney to Canberra to visit his home place. And that was such a surreal experience. I had my little camera and I was shaking the whole way as each pitch stuff we had, and it was a very good experience. I have hundreds of hours of footage on that experience of Quest for Jackie. I just haven't had a chance to edit it. I reckon once I finish Echo 8 Trilogy, I'll probably finish that film, Quest for Jackie Chan, because that's a feature length, pseudo documentary that I probably have out there. But yeah, that was my experience with Jackie.
I know you're enjoying this wonderful content, but guess what? We are going to go ahead and let you know about something that's really awesome and fantastic. Guess what? Maria Trần is joining us all the way from Sydney, Australia. Here in the US is where I'm at in Tampa, Florida. But guess what? Somebody can help you. That is none other than PushPin Adventures. Whether you're doing international travel, US travel, by land, by sea, you name it. Destination weddings, group travel, PushPin Adventures can help you. That's right. Go ahead and visit pushpinadventures.com. Check them out. See what travel arrangements they can make for you. They can handle it all for you. Just sit back and relax and get your passport or your ID ready. Let PushPin Adventures take care of the rest. Don't forget to visit pushpinadventures.com. Thank you for being our wonderful sponsor, and wonderful you are indeed, PushPin Adventures. So without further ado, let's continue on with this wonderful content. Let's go. Wow, that's amazing. You got a chance to spend all that time with him. That well deserved, because you persevered. You had some setbacks in your acting career and you persevered. That's what's one of the things that really is astonishing, that things weren't given to you. You made it happen. Yeah,
I'm kind of like a person where people are like, no. I'll be like running around. No. Okay. You're just finding. I end up now realizing it's not even about the rejection. It's about finding the yes. Amongst all those, there's got to be the yes. So just keep finding it. It's somewhere there. It's like finding you. I've lost the keys to the house. Where is it? So you go find it,
Yeah, just keep searching till you get that yes. And one big supporter of yours is, somebody who is a former guest, Vinny.
Yes.
Yeah, talk about Vinny.
Vinny is amazing. I would say he's one of the biggest hustlers I know around. And he has so many ideas. And when I connect with him, I can see the vision of what he wants. But at the same time, I can see how much challenges that he faces. And the greatest thing about Vinny is he doesn't see the challenges. And I'm like, bam, you don't see the challenges. People say no to you. People say mean things to you, and you just keep going. And that is such an admirable characteristic to have. But he's always pitching to me. He's like, "Man, I want to make a film. I want to do." I'm like, cool. We can. So what we do is we make a plan. Here's the plan. Here's what what I think you can do. You then come up with your own plan to see how we can make this work. And he's able to do it. I remember he's like, how do I make film? I'm like, oh, you need to get funding, you need to get support. Next thing you know, a week later, he pulls all these support together, and I'm in a Zoom chat with all these different people from funding bodies saying, oh yeah, Vinny kind of got us in this meeting because we wanted to chat to you about some ideas of his film. And I'm like, oh, damn, yeah, and at the same time, my role is also to help guide him, going, hey, this is what the filmmaking process looks like. How do we make your ideas turn into action and also mean something for your audience? How do you find the right people on your project? And how do you help them communicate with you in a way that's respectful? Because sometimes people like him in life do get quite people who get, a little bit defensive and go, who are you? Why do you think you're bigger to do all these things and to persevere? But, naturally he just perseveres himself. It's just that he just needs information to know where he wants to go. So, which is fantastic. And not only that, he's a huge giver. when I met him, I think for an hour with Elizabeth H. Fu, he gave me Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, Be Useful, which I think I read midway. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, thank you, Winnie. You even thought about what I might need, and actually gone out the way to buy me a book and to remind me, this is how Arnie did it. Or you're going to find bits to do it, and he doesn't communicate, like he's not as articulate, but I can read into all the mannerisms that he expresses, and it means volumes because he's such a giving human being in his own way of expression. Yeah,
awesome guy, Vinny. And in fact, that's one of the things that I really wanted to emphasize, how great he is. Another great thing is that with your movie Echo 8, for people who don't know, that's also your name of your character.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a code name Assassin Echo 8, and it's a story about a woman who is unraveling her identity, pretty much. And that was in the first film. And then the second one now is the story of her living off the grid, living in sort of like a little homeless commune, and then realizing that more atrocities are happening and that kids are getting kidnapped, and she needs to rise to the occasion with the people living in the homeless community to overthrow the corruption that is behind all of this. So, but the tone of the sequel is probably going to be slightly more on the action comedy bent, because what we realize is that I actually want kids to watch it. It's pretty ultra violent, the first one. And it was great for that genre. But then at the same time, like, especially now that I'm working on a project called Mighty Maddie's Mission in the Future, working with Maddie, who's a 9-year-old. And she came to me and saying, I want to be like you. Like, I want to be strong and do the fighting stuff. I'm like, wow, this is my audience. I want to engage with this audience. I want them to realize that they could also do it. And then not only through me. So that's why I worked quite closely with little Maddie to get her to be confident, to get her to have speaking skills, to get her to think deeply about who she is. And in the Zooms, we had lots of amazing conversations. We talked about life, we talked about death, we talked about, mortality, we talked about our spirit, our heart, our soul, because DIPG means she's got 1% of surviving. And even though she's 9 years old, but her body is currently deteriorating and there's no cure. So it's a hard project to work with. At the same time, we focus on making these films that will live forever. And she knows that. So we've got to launch soon, like a big screening. And even for her, as much as she's struggling to speak now and move, but her spirit, you can feel it when you're in the room. She's like giggling and smiling, and she's trying to give signals like thumbs up, thumbs down, just to communicate how she is in the moment of whatever I screened. I'm like, we're showing a pre-screening today, and then, stuff like that. Because life's too short to kind of not be able to do things that are beyond yourself. Because a lot of times I feel like people get into their mindset and they think it's all about them, and then they end up not doing the amazing work that they should be doing, right? Being a human being on this planet is to create belonging amongst everyone. So that's working with other artists from diverse abilities, ages, races, everything really makes me feel alive. And I always love working with communities that are underrepresented, or they want to make something to change something in the world. So for Maddie, there's probably never been a 9-year-old directing a film before and starring in her own film that she also wrote. And the fact that she's dying of cancer, you know what I mean? That's a world's first there that we got. And not only that, she's an amazing spokesperson now. So we've got a documentary that she spoke beautifully in. Well, she was struggling to get her words out, but she did. And I think it's going to make people really emotional when they watch it, which is what I want, because I want people to pay attention to fund, more cancer research, especially for young people. Yeah. Yeah,
and make sure people check out that documentary. It's sounds like it's gonna be very powerful. And I know that Maddie's you're her inspiration. Who's your inspiration? Who do you look up to as far as actresses or actors that are really doing great things?
I look up to a blend of people. So I look at most of the time, I do have people in the beginning it was Jackie Chan. And then once I met him, I realized, wow, I can see why he's been successful, because there's a sense of community. I think when we're going for dinner, he was serving everyone else. On set, he sees the pieces of rubbish on the ground. He picks it up. There's a sense of serving, making sure everyone's comfortable in this journey of your vision. So I picked that up and I want that. I want that attribute. If I was to do what I do, I need that attribute. And it doesn't cost money. It's just a characteristic that I can just adopt. So I picked that. And then, Roger Corman was someone that I felt I was quite inspired by when I worked on his film, because he's the father of big grade films. Made 300 films, never lost a dime. That's his tagline, right? And I was like, wait a minute. I don't need to get into the big budgets. I can just make stuff on this micro budget scale, and still there is a demand. There are audiences for it. In fact, it's more exciting because we got less to work with, which means the community that come on board to the filmmaking process, we have to treat like family. It's not just a number. They are family, and if they can share their feelings about the project, they can give more ideas, and it becomes fun. Whereas the traditional film model is very toxic. It's toxic, it's racist, it's sexist, a whole lot. So whoever's on top, the executives in these honcho studios, they have their own agendas. They have their own, we want to make films and hang out with our types of people. They're probably the fat cats anyway, And then people like us who are like the underdogs won't ever get a chance to have our voices or really truly get a chance to participate the way that we feel that is like, that has the integrity. And we want to have to maintain our voices and our strength rather than always playing victims. And I have to admit, like, for me as an actor in the Australian film industry, I've played so many roles that are very Asian accented, very comedic, comical, or the tiger mum, the tiger lady, the prostitute, all of that. And I was like, this cannot be the height of my career, And I remember I had a production say, you should be grateful for this. Grateful the fact that you see me only as this character, whereas I can make my own film and be an assassin. And also heart-rendering story as well about family, about finding oneself. Why not? Why can't I? Why can't I mix the genres up? I can, because we are not responding to anybody. We are just doing it as a community. We respond to ourselves. We're accountable for ourselves, and the energy is so much more. So therefore, like, as you can see in the world, there's multi-million-dollar budgets, and sometimes you watch it like, what? How is this like $80 million and it's a flop? Again, it's because it's a bunch of people on board of it, not really caring about the project. They're caring about their bank accounts and how much money they can get from a project. And that's why projects fail, because no one cares about the project. But for us, it's different. We have less, so therefore we have to have more care and kindness. So a lot of the people that we cast in Echo 8, I think the reviews came in, they're like, there's no names. How come there's no names in this film? Or, there's a couple of amateur actors in it. I'm like, majority are non-actors. Majority of your mum and dads go, hey Maria, I heard about what you do and I always wanted to be like, yeah, sure. If you do, this is what we can do, and we can write you a character, and on the day, like, we'll prep you up, but then on the day you'll come on board to be that role. And you know what I realize is there's more power to having someone who has no voice or no confidence and giving them space and a platform to be seen and heard, because that lives forever. Well, now the film that's on 13 streaming platforms, it's out there. It's a part of the history. It's accessible. And there's even the girl that plays a little girl. She's like, she wants to get into acting now because she feels like being an actor in that role, which she never acted before, has given her the confidence to be herself in school and then to help other people be themselves. Such a great outcome, individual outcomes, and I love that.
Yeah, so definitely, that's awesome that everybody's helping together like a community effort. And, what do you have to say to the people, the cast, the people who are crowdfunding, all the people that participated? What do you have to say to them for them to have helped you get to this point so far?
I personally just want to say big thank you to them for the faith they have in the project, in myself. And when they back up the project, it's not, for me, it's just not like, you backed it up, thanks for the money. It's more like, hey, welcome to the family. Hey, when you need something, when you need a person to hear about some of your challenges that you're going through, or some of the things ideas that you have, I'm here for you. I'm here for you because you've backed it up. You are part of the family. And for the campaign, that's why I put it out there so many times that it doesn't matter how much, or even if you don't back it up, but you find a way to promote Echo 8 Trilogy, perfect. because it's not about, oh, you have to put in money to participate. I don't want that. I don't want it to have an entry level. But at the same time, we are sort of like getting some people who are like, you know what, I want to come on board as an executive producer because I really want to see if after this film is done, where can we take it internationally? So there are certain people who come to me and go, actually, I see there is this other huge potential, and I want to be able to have that credit to be able to take the film to this next level, or to at least experiment and explore that. Perfect. So there's different ways for people to connect when it comes to our Indiegogo campaign, and I encourage everyone to actually connect with me first to ask me about whether a perk really is good for them or not. Because I never want anyone to put money in and realize, oh shit, that's not for me, or oh gosh, how come it wasn't what I expected or wasn't a good experience. I never want that. So, you know, the campaign's there to connect more with more people around the world.
Yes, absolutely. And how can people reach out to you and, you know, follow you? Tell them that.
Easy. Like, you know, they can always go onto the Echo 8 movie site. They can put in a message there. They can reach out on my Facebook, Insta, all of that stuff. I think on the campaign, if you scroll all the way down, there's some contact details that if they email me, it'll go straight into there. And then we can then figure out, you know, what we can do to collaborate, or how I could help, or how I could even give a piece of advice for them to keep going. Because a lot of times what I'm good at, I mean, I'm not like, I don't have all the means, but what I'm actually quite good at is actually looking at someone's circumstance and then sort of maybe in a couple of sentences, go, actually, maybe you're about this, or maybe how about trying this? And sometimes it unlocks something. They go off and they do the work, and then they come back and they go, oh my gosh, that thing that you said, now I figured that out. Now I'm here. I'm like, great. What's next? Okay, let's figure another thing. So we all here help each other. Even for myself, I can't always look at myself. I have peers around me. Hey, Maria, I think you're a bit this and that. Okay, what do you think I should do? And they go, okay, I think you should do this. And it's so much exciting because it means that you don't always have to think, what do I do next? Because other people have already given you, you know, especially if they care about you, they've already got amazing ideas. Sometimes ideas even better than what you think. You know, so life doesn't feel like it's going to be a challenge and, oh, what's next? Because together as a whole, we help each other. And it's so hard for me to explain it to people because people, I don't get it. What if I give and then I don't get back? And what if people like manipulate me? And I'm like, you will only feel that way if you're thinking about yourself, right? You're only feeling that way if you're thinking about yourself. Because if you think about, you know, what you can give, because giving, it feels so good that you can do it, and you do it to a point that you get so good at it that people will hire you for it. Because then you become like a very good, like skilled level, not just surface level. And for me, like in America, certain companies would hire me as a consultant to come in to spend some time having a look at their company, assessing their staff, and then giving some feedback on what some of the things to kind of like help them with their branding to make it more authentic. I don't have training or a certificate in that. I'm just good at sort of seeing things and telling the truth, really.
Yes. That's right. We really appreciate you joining us here on the Alan Alford Sports Talk Show. Make sure you guys check out Echo 8 Trilogy, starring, you know, Maria Trần, and Echo 8 is her code name. So we're going to make sure that we go ahead and support you here at the Alan Alford Sports Talk Show. We really tremendously appreciate you. Thank you again, and continue success with the new movie and movies beyond.
Oh, thank you so much, Alan. It was amazing to be on your show.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.